love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
What's up, guys? Leighton here for UFC Gambling Addicts, back again with another UFC breakdown. This is going to be Maia versus Ben Askren, UFC on ESPN+20, and it's going to be taking place in Singapore. Let's get through the comments and the polls. Before that, I've made a Twitter. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I basically just speak the whole of the fight night, maybe put out a few bets midweek as well. So if you want to catch me on Twitter, there's my Twitter stuff. The poll from last week, we had, where is it? There it is. Chris Weidman, 32%. Dominic Reyes, 68%. Boys, come on. 283 votes. I want to be smashing that 300 barrier every time. So if you're listening to this right now, the Ben Askren and Maia poll is already up. Go vote on it. Come straight back and we'll continue. But yeah, 68% Dominic Reyes. I like it. I like it this week, boys. Maybe one too many votes on Michelle Waterson. But this week it looks good. A lot of people on Dominic Reyes. Few comments. Here we go. The UFC is looking to retire Weidman and they want to see how Reyes does with an elite wrestler. Chris, days are numbered and I can't believe that Reyes isn't a minus 200. Richard, I completely agree with you. I think if Dom Reyes performed like much better against Volkan or even finished him, you know, his price would have been minus 250, minus 300. Great shout. Tyler Lee, Brady doesn't lose in Boston. Great shout. Great shout, mate. I will say I'm still happy that I took Court McGee because the second and the third round he did outstrike Brady. However, I'm glad that the judges got the perfect score. It was 29-28. Some judges, I believe two of them actually gave 30. I know I gave that third round to Court McGee. But the second round, like I said, Court McGee outstruck Brady. However, it isn't always about landing more. Brady had the more meaningful strikes in that second round. And, you know, I said before this fight happened, whether Brady loses or wins this, I think this guy has a very bright future in the UFC. And he's going to be a guy we come to respect a lot. So to see his skill set on his debut, really, really impressed. So great shout from you, Tyler Lee. Nate, bong rip, highly appreciated. There we go. There we go. Justin, James Vick and Luke Rockhold are a part of a club where they move up in weight because they no longer have the chin to compete in the UFC. I'm afraid Chris Weidman is joining that club. 10 likes on that as well. Man, to join that club on your wife's birthday as well, it's pretty deep. But yeah, I mean, Chris is done. He's always going to be a competitor, but the level of competition he's going to beat now is not going to be the level of competition he was beating before. So maybe an unfair example would be Joe Lauzon. You know, we just saw him absolutely demolish Jonathan Pierce. Maybe Chris can beat like quite a bit higher level than that. But, you know, Chris, he's coming towards the end. Audio. Never edit out the bowl smoking. Us stoners appreciate it. That's got 24 likes. So yeah, this MMA community, it's dope to see that quite a few of you love to smoke. So that's dope. I love that, boys. Keep smoking. You're probably smoking right now. What else have we got? More comments here. Weidman is getting James Vick, in my opinion. Yep. Johnny, Reyes all day. By the way, nice predictions last week. Made some decent profit. Thank you very much, mate. I'm glad to hear you're making good money. Apocalyptic, Weidman is not doing well with the top guys at middleweight, let alone light heavyweight. Great shouts. Great shouts. Before we move on, I want to mention one channel. I want to bring your attention to a UFC channel that's making predictions every week. It's called Just Bleed MMA. Now, you have to go and watch this guy's channel. You know, he's doing his thing, and it's very, very different to every single channel. He brings good entertainment to these picks. Like, for example, he was breaking down Jeremy Stevens and Yair Rodriguez. He starts like pumping his chest, getting all amped up like his fight night. This guy is very entertaining. He may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I'm sure a large majority of you who go and check this guy's channel, you're going to see he is very passionate. He is a better every week. Very knowledgeable and just a funny guy. So go check him out. Just Bleed MMA. Have we got anything else to say? We're going to do a little recap. We'll do a recap of the fights we've just seen. I'll make it quick. Tanner Boser and Daniel Spitz. You know, I didn't have the most to say about that last week. I did make a pick. Tanner Boser, I kind of went with a calf kicking vibe. You know, I did mention he has a karate background, and we kind of saw that over 15 minutes. Daniel Spitz is just not UFC caliber either. Kevin Holland and Brendan Allen. That was a really good fight. Massive credit to Brendan Allen. I felt Kevin Holland would be able to hang in the clinch. You know, I really rate his grappling, but man, he doesn't cut much weight for 185. He is a small 185er, so we have to always, you know, remember when he is grappling these guys, he may be as talented or maybe more talented of a grappler, but when you grapple guys who are bigger than you, it is going to wear on you, and that's what we saw there. Sean Brady, I've already mentioned that. Really good, really good. He did slow down a little bit, but as far as I'm concerned, his conditioning to hang with a guy like Court McGee in his debut, cracked him a couple times as well. Nearly got the finish. Sean Brady, man, really, really impressed. Randy Costa and Boston Salmon. I mean, a lot of us were very split on this one. You know, a lot of people taking Boston, a lot of people taking Randy. And yeah, Randy Costa, man, he's just about that life. He's willing to take strikes to get off his strikes, and that's who Randy Costa is. Sean Woodson and Kyle Bochniak, man, this fight here was my first tweet of the night. I can't believe Kyle Bochniak's team had him trying to grapple for 15 minutes and it just wasn't working. They just continued. Like, if it's not evident to you or any fighter that the area of attack on Sean Woodson is those long skinny calves, then I don't know what to say. Kyle Bochniak, you have paid your team for nothing. Like, literally, I can't believe the game plan in that one. But credit again, I don't want to take anything away from Sean Woodson. Those step-in knees are very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. Molly McCann, good performance. Very good performance. What can I say? I'm pretty sure we all expected her to dominate that fight. I did give the first round to Diana. Some people gave that to Molly, but as far as I'm concerned, Diana would look very good in that first round. But the strength of Molly McCann was always going to be too much. Charles Rosa and Manny Bermudez, man, wow, what a kick in the teeth to anyone who's a strong believer of ring rust. 2.5 years, Charles Rosa comes back. I mentioned it as well, man. I said, listen, Charles Rosa is a black belt. He has more experience. Did I pick it? No, hell no. I was all over Manny Bermudez, and I'm sure a lot of us was. What can you say, man? Manny Bermudez, he was landing really decent ground and pound, to be fair. Just seemed way too comfortable. Just kind of just sitting in his guard, just on his knees, way too comfortable. You know, should be looking to improve his position. You know, get to side control. Put Charles Rosa in positions that he doesn't want to be in. You know, Charles Rosa's just he's trying things off of his back, and you're just sat there. You're just in his guard, way too confident, way too comfortable. So Manny Bermudez, man, it's a tough one. Darren Stewart and Deron Winn. I see a few people say Deron Winn won this fight. As far as I'm concerned, those people are wrong. Now, you know, I'm not saying you're judging these fights wrong, but the first round, I'm sure we can all agree, was clearly Deron Winn's. Very good top control. Took Darren down with ease. The first round was extremely evident. Now, after the first round, that's when Darren Stewart was able to get back to his feet multiple times and actually peel himself off of the cage at times. And after he did that, he was landing his own strikes. You know, Daron was eating straight punches down the middle. So you have to give Darren Stewart credit in that second round. You know, it was not the same as the first round. And same with the third round. You know, Daron Wynn was able to get his takedowns. But as far as I'm concerned, if you're Daron Wynn and you have 6 takedowns out of 14 and you're not doing anything in the striking, you're losing these rounds. The first round was very evident, but after that, Darren Stewart done great. Macy Barber, you know, this girl she's great. What can you say? She's getting in there. She looks better every time. She's fought through adversity against JJ Aldrich, proved a lot to us with her strikes. And just you know, overwhelmed Gillian. Gillian looked for the takedown, but Macy Barber, her foundation is wrestling, so what can you do? Joe Lauzon, like I said earlier, very quick finish, very impressive. You know, some picks, you just have to have some faith. Have some faith with some picks. Sometimes they may not seem as logical, but just like Cub, the week before this, you know, some of us took that pick and it was a faith pick. Greg Hardy, Benson, what can I, man, oh my goodness. That man used his inhaler, boys. He used his inhaler. Don't, like, listen, the illegal knee on Crowder, we can all, like, some of us, or most of us can justify it, you know. He's very new in the sport. You know, he's tired. He's going through adversity. He saw a chance to get a guy out of there. He did it. Now he realizes, oh, damn, it's illegal. Yeah, I am pretty new to this fight game. But what can we say this time? We can't say anything this time. That man knew. He knew you can't use an inhaler. Now, you don't ask, can I have my inhaler? Unless you know you're not supposed to have your inhaler. So, Greg Hardy, man, you've done it to yourself this time. Like, I have no words for you. Just abysmal. Abysmal. As for the performance, I'll be honest, you can see the improvements. You know, nice feints. The calf kicks were really adding up. But man, just lets himself down, right? Just, what can you say about that guy? Co-main event was amazing. So amazing. After that second round ended, you could see the look on their face like, yeah, we respect each other now. And that is what I loved. After the second round, I knew there was going to be, you know, they were always going to shake after the fight. Now, when the third round started, there was no touch. Yair tried to touch, and Jeremy was like, nah, this is still a fight. But after the fight, man, I love to see that. I love to see respect like that in MMA. What a fight. I'm not sure how the fight wasn't stopped either. I'll be honest. Yair Rodriguez definitely stopped him in that corner. Amazing fight. I think we had our question answered, though. If it is a 5-round fight, potentially Jeremy, that conditioning, that non-stop pressure was going to be the one. However, the fight probably should have been stopped. So even if it would have been a 5-round fight, I felt there was a stoppage. Main event was amazing. Dominic Reyes, you know, too big for Chris Weidman. Couldn't take him down. Used the fence well. And he said in his post-fight interview, I'm firing lasers. And you just watch that straight left, man. He is firing lasers. I'm really excited for Dominic Reyes and his career ahead of him. He's going to be a real good fighter at 205, and he's already a really good fighter at 205. So I don't know what I'm on about. Okay, let's get into this breakdown. I've already spoken enough now, so... Okay, starting with Jeff Lights Out Hughes versus Rafael Babazia Pessoa. We'll start with Jeff. Comes into this fight 0 wins, 1 loss, 1 no contest inside the UFC. He's training out of Strong Style Fight Team, so he's a teammate of Stipe Miocic. What can we say about Jeff Hughes? He's not the most impressive heavyweight, and he's by no means the worst heavyweight. In his last fight, he was quite dangerous up close, like up against the fence. with Todd Duffy. He was landing these very short, powerful strikes. So that's something I really noticed with Jeff Hughes. He's quite dangerous up close. Like if you're close to him, man, be very careful with a short, powerful strike. Not the biggest heavyweight, you know, for height and length, but primarily just like a power puncher is Jeff Hughes. His opponent, Rafael Pessoa. His ring name, Barzola, is Portuguese for big baby. So, yeah, it's not really information that's going to decide the fight, but I just thought I'd let you know that. Pessoa comes into this fight 0-1 inside the UFC. Primarily a Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. He's been training in BJJ since 2008. Transitioned into MMA in 2016. So, you know, he's not going to be one of these guys who is able to flow with his strikes. We see that in the debut. You know, he's just throwing these heavy bombs. Maybe one or two clipped Gane, but for the most part, this guy is a Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. And he got finished by his own medicine. So, yeah, not the most impressive heavyweight is Rafael Pessoa. So neither guy is like impressive, but I do believe it's a winnable fight for either guy. I do believe Pessoa could land a heavy bomb on the feet, or Jeff Hughes could land a heavy bomb on the feet. I think it's Jeff Hughes' fight to lose. I feel like he should be in control of this fight. He is the more technical guy in there. Like I said, both guys aren't the most impressive, but I would have to say Jeff Hughes is the more impressive guy out of the two. Now, if Pessoa is able to get the fight to the mat, that's a different story. But for the most part, I see Jeff Hughes controlling this fight and probably getting a TKO. So I'm going to take Jeff Hughes via TKO in round number 1. We take a look at the odds. Minus 220. Minus 220, 230 for Jeff Hughes is pretty deep. Plus 200, plus 175 for Pessoa. So, minus 200, I'd say that's it's fair. But if the fight hits the mat, that minus 200 shortly becomes like minus 120. But at the same time, like I said, Rafael was submitted by Gane, and Rafael has been practicing Jiu-Jitsu for over 10 years. So, not the best Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. So maybe those odds are fair. I'll probably bet Jeff Hughes in one parlay. Okay, moving on into the next fight. We have Alexandra Stitch Albu versus Loma Lookboonmee. What a name. What a name. Okay, we'll start with Alexandra. She comes into this fight 2 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. She's a black belt in karate. Quite an aggressive fighter on the feet. If you watch her first 2 UFC fights, you can see she can get quite aggressive inside the octagon. She had that 2-year layoff, came back and fought Emily Whitmire. Just dominated. Completely and utterly dominated in that fight. She was ragdolled and choked out within a minute. So her return fight went horrible. She's fighting Loma Lookboonmee, which is, I believe she's the first girl from Thailand, or the first fighter ever from Thailand to enter the UFC. So if that's true, that's pretty dope. So yeah, Loma Lookboonmee, training out of Tiger Muay Thai, and she is a Muay Thai specialist. She has had over 300 Muay Thai fights, so I think it's very fair to say Loma Lookboonmee is very good at Muay Thai. You know, she's got a lot of experience there. She has a variety of kicks, you know, mixes it up very well with her kicks. Very good Muay Thai specialist. I will say she has fought at 105. So, you know, when you hear that 105 pounds, if you haven't seen this girl fight, she's very small. She is very, very small. But I did mention, or did I mention, Alexandra Albu was ragdolled by Emily Whitmire. You know, she was ragdolled. So this girl, Alexandra, she isn't strong in the clinch. You know, she's not gonna. Well, maybe that is her game plan to look to clinch a lot. Maybe if you're Alexander Albu, that would be the only game plan. You're not really going to be able to out-kickbox this girl. So, if the fight stays kickboxing, I think Loma could dominate. I see her landing a lot of kicks, circling the octagon very well, scoring when she needs to. But maybe Alexander Albu is going to be the better puncher in there. Now, like I said, Loma Lookboonmee has had over 300 Muay Thai fights. But Alexander Albu, she's got experience inside the UFC. She has had 3 fights. And when she can get into her rhythm of being aggressive on the feet, I think Albu is she's not the worst female fighter. But, something's stopping me from taking that here. I think this match was made for Loma Lookboonmee. Loma has suffered a loss in the MMA. She was armbarred, I believe. And like I said, man, Albu isn't the strongest girl in the clinch. So I feel like this was hand-picked for Loma. I do believe this fight will be mainly kept kickboxing. And I'd have to take the girl who's had over 300 Muay Thai fights. I can't see Alexander Albu outworking, outscoring, or even landing more significant combinations or strikes, singular strikes. I can't see it. So I'm going to take Loma Lookboonmee to win a fairly dominant decision in her debut. And we take a look at the odds. Let's see these odds. We have Loma Lookboonmee -115, -110. Same line basically for Alexander. Now, I'll be honest, boys. I saw Loma was an underdog basically at the end of the card we just saw. And I was all over it. So I snapped her up as an underdog. And now they're both basically the same. I believe Alexander is turning the underdog now. At Sportbet, she's 103 plus 103. But I think it's still a good line. I think if you want to play Loma, -115 is a decent line to play her. I got her as an underdog, like I said, so I'm just going to take her in one bet only. Okay, moving on into the next one. We have Sergey Pavlovich versus Maurice the Crochet Boss Greene. We'll start with Pavlovich. He comes into this fight 1 win, 1 loss inside the UFC. His foundation is Greco-Roman wrestling. So for anybody that doesn't know, that's basically upper body grappling. So you're not allowed to use trips or grab below the waist. It's just like upper body wrestling. So if you see Pavlovich get a body lock in this fight, expect him to be very strong with a high body lock. So that's basically his foundation. He's basically a wrestler. But prior to the UFC, you can see he has very good knockout power. Then we see the debut against Alistair Overeem, where quite a few of us felt he was going to TKO Overeem, myself included. I was on Pavlovich for the debut, basically schooled by a veteran. So anyone who does that faith pick, had that faith pick on Overeem, fair play to you. Then Pavlovich fought, I don't know who he fought after that. It was that Brazilian guy who isn't too good. And, he looked very good in that fight. Pavlovich looked very good in that fight. Good jab, powerful hooks, powerful overhands and uppercuts. He mixes it up very well with his hands. And that's why he was basically getting it done with something that isn't his foundation, He's mainly a wrestler, but he's evolved and he has very good hands. Stopping power for sure. Big power in his hands. His opponent, Maurice Greene, comes into this fight 3-0 inside the UFC. 6'7", 82-inch reach. This guy is very, very big, very long. He's a very decent kickboxer. Also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. So we look at the debut and we see that triangle off his back. And then we see a nice kickboxing display against Jeff Hughes. Very nice performance. And then, steps it up another notch and we see a beautiful TKO over Junior Albini. So I'm looking at this fight, man. It's a very tough one to predict. I almost feel obliged to pick Maurice Greene because I have taken him in his first 3 UFC fights. And he is 3-0. But I'm not going to take him. I'm not going to take Maurice Greene here. I think this is going to be his biggest test yet. I think Pavlovich, in that last fight of his, he showed me real quick hand speed, really powerful, like I said, and the foundation of wrestling. So I like this matchup for Pavlovich. Like I said, it is a tough one to predict, and if I'm wrong, I'm still happy because I like Maurice Greene. If he can win this one and prove me wrong, good for him. But I just think the power of Pavlovich, the foundation of his wrestling, the speed. I just think this one is going to be maybe the biggest test for Maurice Greene. Maybe this is where he experiences his first loss inside the UFC. If I'm wrong, fair play to Maurice Greene. Taking a look at the odds. Here we go. Pavlovich minus 230. Maurice Greene plus 180, plus 190. Man, I mean, if you believe Maurice Greene can do it, take those odds. But I just think the power of Pavlovich is going to be too much. So I'm leaning towards Pavlovich TKO round number 2. Maybe a couple bets on Pavlovich for sure. Moving on into the next one, because I believe this fight was cancelled. Julia Avila versus Randa, or Carol Rosa, sorry. I believe that fight was cancelled, so I'll keep it very short and sweet. I think Julia Avila wins that fight. If I'm wrong and that fight's not cancelled, I'm an idiot, but I do believe that fight is cancelled. So moving on into the next one, we have Randa Quiet Storm Markos versus Ashley the Spider Monkey Yoder. We'll start with Randa. She comes into this fight 5 wins, 6 losses, 1 draw inside the UFC. So what can we say about Randa Markos? She's fought a lot of very good competition. She's a veteran of women's MMA. She's a very strong wrestler, very good top control. Striking, it's evolved. It's evolved in 15 fights or so, but Randa Markos is a grappler. She's that girl who looks for a takedown, looks to end up on top of you, searches for a submission that she pretty much never gets. I believe she subbed Angela Hill and that's it. Yeah, Randa Markos, man. She's fought a lot of very good competition. Striking evolved, but she's always going to be the same. She's always going to be that girl who looks to take you down, ends up on top, and that's how she wins. Ashley, the Spider Monkey Yoder, comes into this fight 2 wins, 3 losses inside the UFC. This is another girl who isn't the best either. She's training out of Team Quest, which is a pretty decent camp. Yoder's primarily a kickboxer. She is a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She has got that a little bit of experience on the mat, but primarily she's looking to pop jabs, hooks, and uses her kicks from a distance. That's who she is, She's looking to be a kickboxer mainly. I believe she took up MMA after her brother passed away, just to release anger. Stuck with the sport and hasn't looked back since. So I'd like to say massive credit to Ashley Yoder. Use the sport to grieve, if you will, and she's in the UFC now. So I know some of us look at these two girls and say, like, they're both not the best, but we have to acknowledge they are good enough to be in the UFC. So credit to both of them. So if this fight is kept kickboxing, let's assume that the fight is kept kickboxing, would have to say Ashley Yoder does dominate. She's not as powerful as Randa Markos, but if Randa doesn't put her out with a strike and it's just kickboxing, Ashley Yoder will win that fight pretty much 9 times out of 10. Well, that's my opinion anyway. That's not a fact, but that's my opinion. But if Randa is Randa and she looks for a takedown, looks to be a bully, looks to end up on top, I think she dominates the fight. So it's a question of, if you believe Ashley Yoder can stop the takedowns, keep it kickboxing, or even end up in good positions, because like I said, she has got a little bit of experience on the mat, then I'd say take Ashley Yoder. Now, if you believe Randa Markos is this yo-yo fighter, which she is, win one, lose one, win one, lose one, yeah, Randa's going to be Randa here. She's going to be in a close fight, as she always is. And it's a real tough one to predict, boys. But I'm going to say Randa Markos is Randa Markos. She isn't looking to strike like she did with Claudia Gadelha for some reason. Now, we know Claudia Gadelha has got very good jiu-jitsu, very, very good experience there. But still, if you're Randa Markos, you can't get to the dance of fighting Claudia Gadelha and now we're not a grappler, now we're a striker. Like, I hope she saw that performance, because if I remember rightly, Randa Markos was putting her hand up after that, and it was a bad performance. So I hope Randa knows she has to be Randa here. She has to look for a takedown, end up on top, and win the fight there. So that's what I'm going to pick here. I'm going to take Randa Markos via decision. And we take a look at the odds. Randa Markos, where are you? Minus 170, minus 165, minus 170. I like it. I think it's fair. I don't think it could be a little bit closer, I guess, but you know, we make the lines. You know, obviously there's more money going on Randa Markos here, less money going on Ashley Yoder. But for Ashley Yoder to be plus 145, plus 150, and not close to plus 2, that means there is quite a bit of money going on Ashley Yoder. So credit to whoever's laying money down there. It's a tough one to predict, boys. A lot of female underdogs have been coming in, so maybe. But yeah, I don't pick fire odds. I always make my picks before the odds, and I feel Randa Markos can win this fight. So maybe a couple parlays, hopefully minus 170-ish. Because that William Hill, Randa Markos is minus 189. I don't like that. I want what you guys have. I want minus 165. William Hill users, get on to Ashley Yoder. Alright, boys, moving on into the next one. I'm going to have a smoke break after this one, so I know you boys be smoking right now, but I'll be joining you in 5 minutes when we get this one out of the way. Enrique Barzola versus Movsar Evloev. We'll start with Enrique. Enrique Barzola comes into this fight 6 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. Arguably, should be 7 wins, 1 loss, because I believe he did beat Karl Bochniak. It's a very impressive record from Enrique Barzola. Training out of Team AKA, American Kickboxing Academy. Very, very good camp. I'm sure we all know about that camp. And you know, he trains there because he's a relentless wrestler. That's what he's trying to do, you know. He's always looking to wrestle, has multiple takedowns every fight pretty much. Sets a real high pace and sticks to it. His striking has improved. It has improved. But I wouldn't say he's a dangerous striker. You know, you look at the last fight against Bobby Moffett. You know, he does land. I'm not saying he doesn't land significant strikes. I don't think that's his most dangerous part of his game. You know, I think the most dangerous thing about this guy is he can wrestle a lot, and he sets a high pace and he sticks to that pace. So if you can't fight at a high pace, if your conditioning isn't, you know, the level of what the guys are at AKA, you know, look at yourself, Luis Pena. If your conditioning isn't great, you're going to have a hard time with Enrique Barzola. So Movsar Evloev comes into this fight 1-0 inside the UFC. Primarily a 135er. I believe he was a champion in M1 at 135. For some reason, debuted at 145 in the UFC, so he's moved up to 145. And that's strange to me. That's quite strange, and that's dangerous. That's a dangerous choice to make at a really important time in your career. So, you know, that's something that really stops. It's really stopping me betting this guy hard. You know, if I am picking this guy, I'm never betting it hard, because he's primarily a 135er, and we're basically relearning for this guy at 145. But what we do know about him is this guy is primarily a grappler too. His foundation, just like Pavlovich earlier, his foundation is Greco-Roman wrestling. So if you see this guy clinch Enrique Barzola up top, if you see a high body lock, expect to see Evloev land a beautiful takedown. As for striking, I give Evloev the striking advantage here. I think some of the finishes he was getting prior to the UFC, some of these kicks he's throwing high, his hands as well, really quick hands. Striking, very impressed with his striking, you know, primarily a grappler, so when I see this guy strike, I am quite impressed. His entries, if he's not looking for a body lock, his entries on the takedown, real quick, really quick. The debut against that Choi guy, one thing I do remember is that Choi is a huge 145er. They gave him a really tough debut. Struggled a little bit with the takedown, but was still able to strike, move. He did get a takedown or two, but you know, some of us were a little bit, you know, not impressed in the debut. But it's basically a 135er fighting a 155er. Like, I was quite impressed when you put it in terms like that. So yeah, really tough fight to predict again. I like this matchup a lot. I think it's a good matchup for both guys. Both guys are very good grapplers. As for striking, like I said, I'd have to lean towards Evloev. He is the more technical guy. And I think this fight could be won or lost in the clinch or with the strikes. What I feel and see a lot in my head for this fight is, if Enrique Barzola gets a takedown, I feel like he's going to end up on the bottom or be scrambling a lot, because I think Evloev is the more technical guy. I feel like if Evloev gets a takedown, that's when you're going to see the position kind of cement. You know, I think Evloev, if he ends up on top, I think he's going to stay on top or end up in more dominant positions. Whereas if Enrique Barzola gets a takedown, I think there's going to be scrambles. You know, I just think the technicality of Evloev is the difference here. Maybe it's the experience. Maybe Enrique Barzola with good experience, he has a very good camp. Maybe that's the difference. But I'd have to stick with the Russian here. I think if he ends up on top, he's going to stay there. And as for strikes, I honestly think he could put out Enrique Barzola. And that's what I'm going to take. I'm going to take Evloev via TKO in round number 2. And we take a look at the odds. Where are the odds? Minus 170, minus 185, minus 190. So it's in that region for Evloev. Plus 160, plus 155, plus 165 for Barzola. So, man, if you believe Barzola can do it, once again, we're getting very decent underdog odds there. But like I say, man, I make my picks before I look at the odds, and I feel Evloev will be the winner here. But man, if you disagree with me, that's fair play, because this is a very tough fight to predict in my head. Very tough prediction. But I'm going to stick with Evloev, and I'm gonna put him in 2 parlays. Alright, boys, I'm gonna join you for like 1 minute, minute and a half, have a little smoke. I got a blunt here this time. Let me just spark it up real quick. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, so I'm obviously not just gonna sit here in silence and smoke, so I want to speak to you about something whilst we have a little break, just a minute. Someone left a comment on my last video, and they basically said, you can go back and look for this if you're nosy enough to do it, but someone basically said, if you didn't like beat around the bush too much and actually made picks, you'd have more likes, which is kind of ironic, because like, I'm really happy with the amount of likes I'm getting, and you know, it's 97% of the comments every week is just beautiful. You know, we're all engaging with each other, all having a great time. You know, we all love the sport. And he, you know, just there's a few negative comments. There's not many. There's like 1 or 2 every video. So 2 out of like 100 plus is really good for me. And you know, I always say, if you disagree, we can still speak. But this wasn't a disagreement. This was someone like, you know, leaving a comment being nasty, man. And obviously this person isn't listening to the recordings, because I always say at the end of each segment, this is what I'm personally taking. Now, he's basically asking me to not respect both people. Now, in my opinion, a good bettor, a guy who has a level head, is someone who appreciates both paths. Now we're gonna make a pick. All of us who bet, we make a pick, right? But we all look at it and go, we have to find the path for this person. We have to find the path for this person. They're both in the UFC. They both can win the fight. We see this every single week. We see every week we're surprised, you know. So I always like to appreciate both paths. I want to find a path for both people. And one thing why I like to do that as well is because, say you're listening to me break down a fight and you hear me pick someone, but you hear me still speak good things about the other person. Say you're taking the other person I don't pick. You may like that on this channel. You may like that I find a path for both people. So you may hear me say stuff like, you know, for an example, Ashley Yoder, if it is kept kickboxing, if it is, I think she can dominate. I really do. So even though I picked Randa Markos, I think a level-headed better is someone who appreciates both paths, and that's what I'm always going to do here. Okay, let's have a little bit more of a smoke, and then we'll get into it. Okay, what is the next fight? Moving on into the next one. I don't even know the next one at this point. Rafael Fiziev versus Alex the Spartan White. Decent fight. I like this one. We'll start with Fiziev. He comes into this fight 0-1 inside the UFC, training out of Tiger Muay Thai, also coaching out of Tiger Muay Thai. He's a striking coach, I believe. Training in Muay Thai since 10 years old. So 16 years he's been training in Muay Thai. It's fair to say he's a Muay Thai guy. A very elite kicker. If you go back and watch some of the highlights prior to the UFC, very elite kicker. Also known for his kicking defense, which is a little bit ironic considering how quick his debut was over with that spinning kick. Yeah, but like I said, 16 years in Muay Thai, this guy has got a lot of experience. Now, someone left a comment on my last video saying, I wonder why Alex White is such an underdog here. Quite strange, because Fiziev hasn't got much experience. You're correct. He hasn't got much experience in MMA. So, like I said, man, 16 years he's been in Muay Thai. He's a coach at Tiger Muay Thai. He's had over 200 Muay Thai fights. And he's also competed in quite a few Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments. So I like that he's transitioned into MMA. I didn't take him in his debut, but I do like the credentials this guy holds. Moving on into Alex White. Comes into this fight 4 wins, 5 losses inside the UFC. A little story on Alex White if you don't know. He accidentally drank gasoline at 4 years old. Nearly lost his life. Ended up with burnt vocal cords, damaged hearing, and a slight speech impediment. So, yeah, in and out of homelessness as well. And he was working in McDonald's. So for anyone listening to this, you can do absolutely anything, guys. Anything you put your mind to, you can do it. And I'm sure all of my stoner community smoking right now, smoking the blunt, you know, you're all sat there just pretty much stoned and locked to the sofa. But stoners, you know, a lot of people in MMA are stoners, man, and look at what they've achieved. So anything you set your mind to, you can achieve. Alex White is proof of that. His fighting ability, he's not the best guy, he's not the worst guy. He's quite well rounded. Used to be a 145er, stepped up to 155. Something Alex White is good at is kind of rushing in with a barrage of punches. That's what he's quite good at. Kind of in his last fight against Dan Moret, I was on Dan Moret and I rewatched that fight, man. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of a little bit surprised it went to Alex White. It wasn't even a split even, so a little bit surprised there. But you know, Alex White, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. I think he's well rounded. I'm really glad that he's fighting at the highest level in MMA. You know, with the story I just told, it's really inspirational. So if I'm wrong on this pick, credit to Alex White. He's proved a lot of people wrong. If he proves me wrong, credit to him. But I'm going to take Fiziev. It is a winnable fight for either guy, but I'm going to make a pick. I think it's Fiziev. I think the Muay Thai experience for 16 years, he's a striking coach himself. If this fight is kept kickboxing, man, Fiziev's going to land a lot of kicks. Like I said, Alex White is good at rushing in with a barrage of punches, so if he can get it done like that, credit to him. But if it's kept kickboxing, Fiziev's going to light him up. And like I said, he's entered a few Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments. He's at a very good camp, which he is a coach of. So it's not like he's not training still in Jiu-Jitsu. So good fight. I'm going to take Rafael Fiziev. And I think he can get this one done. So I'm going to take Fiziev TKO in round number 2. And we take a look at the odds. What odds do we have here? Man, why can't I find it straight away every time? I'm still searching for it. Okay, minus 230, minus 240. The best price you can get on Fiziev is minus 210, which is, I'd snap that off. I'm not going to lie, I'd snap that price. Minus 250 at my bookie, which is William Hill. So quite a deep price. Not much faith going into Alex White here. He can win this fight, you know, he can win it. But to answer the question, to the guy who said, I wonder why Fiziev is such a favourite, he is levels above in kickboxing, my friend. So it's a fair price. It's quite fair. I'm going to take him in a couple parlays. Okay, moving on into the next one. We have Benny Dariush versus Frank the Crank Camacho. We'll start with Benny Dariush. Comes into this fight 10 wins, 4 losses, I believe 1 draw inside the UFC. Training out of King's MMA. This guy is a very, very good grappler. I know a lot of us think this guy's a good grappler, but I don't hear him being spoken about for the level he is. You know, I think he's underrated. You know, a lot of people are deceived by this guy. He has very, very good grappling credentials. He's a black belt in BJJ, competed in over 50 Jiu-Jitsu tournaments before the UFC, and he never once finished outside of the top 3. So that kind of puts it into words how good this guy is at grappling. And if you go back and watch some of his fights, even his last fight against Drew Dober, he was losing that fight armbar. You know, this guy is a very good grappler. Very well rounded as well. His striking, I like him as a striker too. You know, this guy was basically the first guy to put James Vick on notice. You know, this guy killed James Vick back in the day. You know, took his head clean off. So for striking, I like this guy. For grappling, I like this guy. I think he's a dark horse still in the 155 division. But since that starching of Alexander Hernandez, since he got starched there, and the flying knee of Barboza, you know, a lot of people kind of fading him and just not really speaking about him too much. But I think Benny Dariush is a very good 155er. His opponent, Frank the Crank Camacho. Man, this guy is very exciting. Comes into this fight 2 wins, 3 losses inside the UFC. All 3 losses coming at 170, and both of his wins coming at 155. So undefeated at 155, and he is fighting here at 155. This guy, he has good grappling credentials too. Not that we've seen it though. We haven't seen it at all. Prior to the UFC, this guy was winning a few tournaments in Jiu-Jitsu too. Not to the level of Benny Dariush, but it appears Frank Camacho is not about that life when it comes to MMA. You know, he has 3 fight of the nights, so you know this guy is very exciting. He's a power puncher, and he's looking to take your head off. He's looking to stand and just brawl with you. You know, against Jeff Neal, he got head kicked, went out on his sword, and I felt bad for him in that fight because, you know, he was really like, look, you can hit me with whatever you want. I'm not going to go out. But look, you've lost 3 times at 170. You are not a 170er. You're a lightweight. So I'm glad that he's fighting here at lightweight. His last performance against Nick Hein was very decent. You know, lighting Nick Hein up with some beautiful strikes, getting the finish in that one. And that was a pick'em all week. You know, no one had a clue who was going to win that one. So this is a very exciting fight. You know, we've seen guys like Alexander Hernandez absolutely starch Beneil Dariush. So that is definitely a possibility here. Frank Camacho can starch him. But I'm going to stick with Beneil Dariush, man. I think he's such a good grappler. He's a proven striker. Very technical. He's been in the game inside the UFC for a few years now. He's a good guy. He's a good guy, man, and I can't pick against him here. Obviously, like I said, Frank Camacho is a power puncher and he can get it done. But I'm going to stick with Beneil here. And I'm actually going to take him to get a... I'm going to take him to get a sub. I'm going to take Beneil Dariush to get a very late submission in round 3 on a tired Frank Camacho. And the odds on this one are... I can't find it again, of course. Of course you can't, lay. Minus 130, minus 140, minus 135 for Beneil Dariush. I love that. I'll be honest, guys, that's a really good line for both sides. Frank Camacho, plus 115, plus 118, plus 110. Man, it's a good line. It's a good line. And now, I know some people are going to fade that, but I'm a courageous bettor, man. I'm a courageous bettor. I love these tight lines. Any line that's tight like that, I have a play in there. So Beneil Dariush, minus 130, minus 135. I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it a couple times too. If I'm wrong, credit to Frank Camacho, man. He's a killer. Alright, boys. Moving on into the next one. We have Michael the Menace Johnson versus Stevie Braveheart Ray. I'll start with Michael. Comes into this fight 11 wins, 10 losses inside the UFC. So I think it's fair to say he's a veteran of the sport. This will be his 34th pro fight, his 22nd UFC fight. He's fought a lot of top competition. He's beat some, he's lost some. He's moving back up to 155, which I feel that's a good move. I feel like that's a good move. He wasn't too good at 145. You know, he hasn't been like this elite guy, you know, but Michael Johnson is a good guy, and I think moving back to 155 is a good move. He's primarily a boxer, likes to use his hands, very good combinations, good movement too, and a decent wrestler, you know. He has failed to get takedowns, you know, Justin Gaethje being one of them recently at 155. But he is a decent wrestler, you know. He can take down some guys, but like I said, primarily a boxer. Stevie Ray comes into this fight 6 wins, 4 losses inside the UFC. His most notable win probably being Joe Lauzon, which was a really close fight as well. Maybe his most notable win, Ross Pearson. Seems to struggle against the better competition. And I'm not really sure what Stevie Ray's best at. I'll be completely honest, man. I'm not too sure where this guy is best. Maybe it's his boxing ability too. Can grapple with some guys, you know. He does have some jiu-jitsu experience prior to fighting in MMA, but I'm not too sure where this guy is best. Maybe it's his boxing. Now, it's a bit of a weird one to predict. I'm confident in my prediction with this one, quite confident, but it's still weird because both guys got badly TKO'd, you know, in their last fights, badly TKO'd. I do have faith though in Michael Johnson. I think he's better pretty much everywhere. I think he's a better boxer. I think he's quicker. I think he's more powerful. A proven guy, you know, hasn't got the best record, but a very proven guy. I think he will be able to take down Stevie Ray in this fight too. I'm not really sure where Stevie Ray is going to win this fight. Maybe he just has to put out Michael Johnson the way Josh Emmett did. Like, I really can't see him winning over 15 minutes. Maybe we see like a weird scenario where Stevie Ray wins the last 30 seconds of every round the way Peter Yan did against Jimmy Rivera, which was, you know, that's how he won that fight, Peter Yan. He just kind of won the last minute of every round. But, you know, that's a ridiculous prediction to make, and we're not here to make those kind of predictions. So, yeah, I feel Michael Johnson has to win this fight. If I'm wrong, Stevie Ray, you know, he's Scottish, he's one of my own. He is a guy from the UK, so I wouldn't mind being wrong, but I'm here to make predictions, and I think Michael Johnson is the right prediction to make here. I think he could potentially TKO Stevie Ray, and that's what I'm going to take. So I'm going to take Michael Johnson via TKO in round number 1. We take a look at the odds. Can I find them? Yes, I can. -3. Okay, we've got some -260, -303, -330, -340. Okay, so Bovada, if you're at Bovada and you're taking Michael Johnson, he's -260. He's going to be -4 at the end of the week. So, wow, that is a really deep line on Michael Johnson. A guy who could lose this fight. Stevie Ray could win this fight. Really good line on Stevie Ray. If you're liking that, I know some of you are going to take that. I know you boys. But me, maybe TKO Michael Johnson. Maybe that's the prop to take here. I'll check the price on that. If I do take Michael Johnson outright, it's only going to be once. I can't be putting minus 345 in more than one. But like I said, maybe the TKO prop is a good price for Michael Johnson. Alright, boys, let's rip this bowl, because this is a good fight. I think someone's going to sleep in this fight. Okay, Cyril Gane versus Dontel Kong Mays. We'll start with Gane. Gane comes into this fight 1-0 inside the UFC. Only 4-0 as a pro in MMA. Very green in the sport. However, this guy is a Muay Thai kickboxer. He's a 2-time national Muay Thai champion. 12-0 in Muay Thai is his record. I believe he has, it's 7 or 8 TKOs out of those 12 fights as well. So, kickboxing, Muay Thai. He's a Muay Thai guy. Look at his debut. Didn't overcommit. Really calm, composed. Allowed Pessoa to throw these bombs that missed. I think 1 or 2 connected, like I said earlier. But for the most part, this guy was really calm, really composed, and actually got it done on the mat. Like I said earlier, he got a sub, which was 20-1 as a prop, which is plus 2,000. And the worst part about all of that was I was staring the prop in the face before the fight. I had a TKO prop on Cyril Gane, which was nowhere near plus 2,000. I always like to bet what I think will happen, not what I hope happens. But at this point, I was looking at the prop and I thought, do you know what? What's the harm in throwing 10 and losing 10 if it doesn't? And I didn't, obviously, and the plus 2,000 came in. So a little bit of spite towards this guy for getting it done like that. But at the same time, he proved a lot to me in that debut. Very calm, composed. He's a Muay Thai guy. He's a kickboxer, but he got it done on the mat. I haven't mentioned yet, he's also training partner of Francis Ngannou. So, yeah, he's not just training with anybody. He's training with one of the biggest killers in the weight class. His opponent, Dontel Mays, comes into this fight 7-2 as a pro, making his UFC debut. He's fought 3 times on Dana White's Contender Series. His most recent opponent is not a notable opponent. This guy he fought used to actually play for Chelsea Football Club. And I know this because I support Chelsea Football Club, if you don't know. And some of you out there right now might be thinking, what? He didn't fight Petr Cech. He didn't fight Courtois. He didn't fight Kepa. No, but we had a reserve goalkeeper called Prevail. And he was our reserve goalkeeper back in like 2008. Apparently he transitioned into MMA, which is a very interesting Contender Series fight. If you haven't seen it, go watch it now that you know that information. But yeah, Prevail just tried to kind of soccer kick, and Dontel Mays, he was never in trouble. He was going to win that fight every single time that fight took place. And he got it done in there. So Mays has struggled with his conditioning. If you go back and watch his previous Contender Series fights, Conditioning seems to be his downfall. His foundation, I would say he is a kickboxer. I don't really know too much about his grappling credentials. I do think he is just a kickboxer, and a pretty decent one, you know. Not the worst, not the best. But like I said, he has struggled with his conditioning, his stamina. The first round does seem to be the best round for Don'Tale Mayes. I like this matchup though for both guys because they are relatively new to MMA. Gane more new than Don'Tale. So I like the matchup for both guys. I do believe this will be the best Muay Thai kickboxer that Don'Tale has fought. Like I said, Gane only 4-0 in MMA, but still a very dangerous Muay Thai kickboxer. And I think Gane proved that, you know. He proved a lot with his debut, with the sub. And against a guy who's been in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 11 years, Pessoa. Just a Jiu-Jitsu guy for all of his life. And Gane got it done with a sub. So I think he proved more than people know in the debut. And I have to stick with that vibe here. So for now, I'm going to ride the potential Francis Ngannou prodigy train. For now, I'll take Cyril Gane via TKO in round number 2, assuming Don'Tale Mayes slows down considerably. Okay, looking at the odds. Where are you? Where are you? Minus 300 for Gane. Now, I agree with that far more than the minus 340, minus 330 for Michael Johnson. I think minus 3 for Gane is way more reasonable. Plus 270, plus 240, plus 230, 260. Yeah, a lot of plus 2 whatever on Don'Tale. If you think he can get it done in that first round, you know, go for it. Anything can happen. Anything can happen in MMA, but I'm going to stick with this Muay Thai kickboxer Gane. I think he could be really dangerous in this weight class. Okay, moving on into the co-main event. A bit of a strange co-main event as well. Muslim King of Kung Fu Salikhov versus Loreno Pepe Staropoli. We'll start with Salikhov. Comes into this fight 2-1 inside the UFC. A high level kickboxer. He's fought 199 times in kickboxing. 199 times. And he has a record of 185 to 13 and 1 draw. So out of nearly 200 fights in kickboxing, 185 wins, with 78 of them ending by TKO. So to say this guy is a very good kickboxer is probably an understatement. This guy is an extremely good kickboxer. So you take a look at his last fight against Nordin Taleb, who in his own right is a very good Muay Thai specialist, a very good kickboxer, Nordin Taleb. You know, when he has space, if you go back and watch Nordin Taleb's fights, check his wins. Every single win he'll have space, you know, and if you take away that space, that's how you beat Nordin Taleb. No, not Salikhov. Salikhov said, hey, you want space? I usually fight with space too. So we'll see who the better kickboxer is. And wow, he amazed us with that finish. Completely destroyed Nordin Taleb. So yeah, the vibe I'm trying to give you, this guy is a very good kickboxer. The grappling of Muslim Salikhov would be the area of concern. His opponent, Staropoli, comes into this fight 2-0 inside the UFC. I may be wrong in saying this, but I think I'm right. I think this guy was a former police officer, which is crazy to me because when you watch this guy fight, he's absolutely crazy. He's crazy in there. He's a madman. And to say he was just like going around trying to keep the peace, like that was clearly not the job for him. This guy is a madman. Now, rewatching his tape last night, I don't know if it's the strain I'm smoking. This guy, go back and watch his 2 fights and tell me if I'm wrong. This guy is the Argentinian version of Nico Price. This guy's mad. He's mad in there. He doesn't have a finish in those 2 fights. I feel like he should have, because you take a look at some of the stuff he's doing inside the octagon, man. He's spinning. He's using stepping knees, uppercuts, hooks, everything, man. This guy throws absolutely everything, and I can see it. I can see his intention, boys. This guy, everything he throws, he's looking to finish you. He is looking to finish you. Nothing he throws is to score. Everything he throws is Nico Price-like. It's madman-like. This is the Argentinian Nico Price. So he's not going to be a world beater. But I tell you, man, this guy is going to put on a lot of good shows inside the UFC and have a lot of good finishes. And I really, really believe that. Just take the time to spend half an hour watching the debut against Hector Aldana and Thiago Alves. Come back to the comments and tell me, this guy is the Argentinian Nico Price, man. So he's fighting a very elite kickboxer. And I think this could be fight of the night. And it's a really tough pick. It's a really, really tough pick because I really respect the credentials of Muslim Salikhov. But just like I spoke about faith before I started this whole breakdown, this is a faith pick. There's not much logic going behind it other than faith. I think Staropoli, he looks so dangerous in there. He's throwing so many dangerous stuff. He's going to get slept or he's going to sleep someone. And I think this is the fight. I don't think this goes 15 minutes. And I think if he just really covers that distance with something dangerous in this fight, I think he can catch Muslim Salikhov. So I believe this is the second underdog I'm taking on this whole card. Loma was the first underdog, and she's not even an underdog anymore. So hopefully we get a heavy favourite type of card, because I'm going to be screwed if that isn't the case. But yeah, this would be my second underdog, or officially my first underdog on the card. I'm going to take Staropoli to land something really nasty, because he's just a madman. He's a madman in there, and this is a faith pick. I'm going to take Staropoli to get a TKO in round number 2. We take a look at the odds. The odds, plus 130, plus 133, plus 125 for Staropoli. You know, I like it. I like it a lot. Salikhov, minus 140, minus 150. Also a very playable line. I think if you're confident in his kickboxing credentials, and, you know, if most of you are, I don't disagree with you. I think he's a very good kickboxer, but Staropoli's a madman. And we just saw a fight example would be Randy Costa versus Boston Salmon. We pretty much all credited Boston Salmon the more technical and better boxer, but some of us just said, you know what, Randy Costa's about this life, and we like that. So if you're faith picking here, good on you. If you're being logical, good on you. I'm sure this is going to be split amongst the community. So yeah, really good co-main event. I like it. Bit of a weird one, but a really good one. I love it. Okay, main event time. Oh boy, this is grappling delight. What a main event, boys. Damian Maia versus Ben Askren. Okay, Damian Maia comes into this fight 21 wins, 9 losses inside the UFC. So, evidently, a true veteran, a legend, 21 UFC wins by grappling. So, the proof is there again. How important BJJ is in MMA. Very, very important. You know, he isn't a striker. You know, the stand-up has evolved, but his stand-up is to use his striking pressure, which, you know, he's not going to put you out on the feet. He's not going to rock you. It's just the pressure and the look he gives you as he's always following you, pressing closer, dipping back out, getting close again. You know it's coming, the shot, but his stand-up is good enough to get into position to shoot for a takedown. So, yeah, a pure grappler. You know, if you don't know about Damian Maia, he doesn't need an introduction. But if you don't know, he's a 4th degree black belt, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu god. He's won a bunch of major Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments prior to the UFC. And he's been subbing guys for over 21, 22 years. He's been subbing guys for a long, long time. So yeah, very good. I love this fight. I love Damian Maia. He's a great guy. Ben Askren. Also, you know, I don't believe this guy needs an introduction either. Comes into this fight 1 win, 1 loss inside the UFC. A very, very talented wrestler. Probably, you know, top 3. He's in the top 3 for best wrestlers in the UFC. He's a very, very talented wrestler. and we have a really good grappling fight on our hands. So initially, I entertained the idea that Damian Maia could win a stand-up battle, but then I realized, although it's funny, Maia has a striking advantage. It just ain't gonna happen, So there will be grappling here, and the question everyone is asking themselves is: can Damian Maia submit Ben Askren? The short answer is yes. The long answer for me is going to be no. So Damian Maia hasn't got to prove anything to us, right? We know he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu god, and we wouldn't be surprised if he subbed Ben Askren. However, Ben is a much better wrestler. So we have to assume Ben will dominate in the scrambles. He will end up on top a lot, if not probably the whole time. And Damian Maia, he likes to take the back, or at least be on top to work towards a submission. I don't think Damian Maia will be able to use that single leg sweep if he's on the bottom. I don't think he's going to be able to end up on top. And if Ben puts himself in a bad position searching for a submission, then maybe he ends up on top. But I don't think he's going to be able to end up on top or end up in a position that he likes to be in. I think Ben Askren is going to be the guy on top. So the question is, do you believe, anyone taking Ben Askren, do you believe that Ben Askren has drilled enough submission defense for the last few weeks? Has he drilled that guillotine defense? Because when he gets him down, we know Damian Maia is going to wrap the neck. And then we're going to see Ben Askren pop his head out. But has Ben Askren drilled the guillotine defense, even triangles, arm bars? If we know he can defend those submissions, then we're pretty much safe betting on Ben Askren. But like I said, if Ben does search for a submission when Damian becomes tired, then Damian Maia could end up on top. But then another question would be, after 10 minutes, Damian Maia is not going to have much energy to submit Ben Askren. And we saw in Damian Maia's last fight against Tony Martin, Damian Maia wasn't grappling anything in that third round. There was no way. He was exhausted. So, yeah, it's a tough one because I think we all agree both guys are grappling gods. But I'm going to stick with the wrestling on this one. I think the wrestling beats Jiu-Jitsu in this one. If I'm wrong, that's fair enough. I wouldn't be surprised. Damian Maia is a Jiu-Jitsu god. So, yeah. But I'm going to stick with Ben Askren. I think he's going to end up on top a lot. And probably grind out a 25-minute decision. So I'll take Ben Askren via decision. And the odds we get are -170, -160, -180. So it's creeping up for Ben a little bit. Damian Maia +160, +140. Yeah. I think those odds are perfect. I think if Ben Askren gets past like -220, then I think maybe a little too much confidence going on him. But yeah, I'm going to take Ben Askren here. I think he can survive at least for 10 minutes, and then anything that he's caught in, I think he just pops out of with strength and conditioning, basically. So yeah, as always, guys, I appreciate you all. I'm not sure how long this recording was. Didn't feel as long as last week, but probably wrong. I'll see you in the comments.